Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn Tosfos Dibra Maschel, Shvuos Shtayim Shein Arba. Let's begin by looking at the flowchart of the Gemara, so you can see what Tosfos is coming to explain. Before each Tosfos, this is what we'll do. We'll present the Gemara in order to better understand and appreciate that the purpose of Tosfos is to support and uphold the Gemara, as well as to be able to see where Tosfos is coming to explain, to keep in mind the general map of the Gemara and what Tosfos is focusing on. See, here we presented in our Gemara the Mishnah and Shavuos that taught four places where we have Shtayim Shein Arba, two cases that are four: Shavuos, Yedias HaTumah, Maras Nagayim, and Yitzias HaShabbos. In this cases, we're going to focus on the first teaching in the Mishnah, which is Shavuos Shtayim Shein Arba. Let's begin with a general outline of Tosfos. We presented the Mishnah from Masechta Shavuos that taught Shavuos Shtayim Shein Arba. When it comes to oaths, there are two cases that are four. Tosfos will come to explain two things. Number one is Tosfos will explain what are these cases. When we say Shavuos are two that are four, what are these two cases that are four? Tosfos will tell us what they are and bring a proof, because there's actually other ways of learning it as well, what these cases are. And the second part of Tosfos is Tosfos will ask, why do we say that there are a total of four cases of Shavuos if we actually find that there are more? And same thing regarding Yitzias HaShabbos, we actually find additional cases. Why aren't they counted? Let's look at Tosfos now in the flowchart form. So we quoted from the Mishnah in Masechta Shavuos, where it's taught Shavuos Shtayim Shein Arba. There are two cases that are four when it comes to a person taking an oath. Tosfos now presents what these cases are. Shtayim, when it says two cases, they refer to a person making an oath, I will not eat, let's say for that day, I will not eat today. Or a person taking an oath, that's the second case, I will eat. And the Torah says that in both of those cases, if the person doesn't keep his oath, he needs to bring a carbon. The reason why those are considered in the category of the two, not that are four, the main ones, is because they're actually written clearly in the pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'nefesh kisi shava." If an individual takes an oath, lahara lehetiv, to do bad or to do good. So it says to do in the future. Bad refers to not eating, which is not is a ra, a negative thing, and it's also negative not to eat. Lehetiv, to do good, would be referring to I will eat. So those things are referred to clearly in the pasuk, and therefore they're the main cases. That are four refers to a person saying, I will not eat. Sorry, for the past. I did not eat yesterday, for instance, or I did eat yesterday, and he lied. Once again, he needs to bring a carbon. The reason why they're considered secondary, they're not the main cases, they're included in two that are four, is because they're not written clearly in the pasuk. Rather, they're hinted to in the pasuk by the words l'chol asher yivata. The pasuk says if an individual takes an oath to do bad or to do good, or for anything that he expresses, those words for anything are referring to if he says lahara ilahitiv, but not for the future, but rather regarding the past. Now Tosfos continues and explains how we did not learn it. Says Tosfos, and he'll tell us the advantage of the other way. So it'll bring up the question even more. It's not just that there's an alternative way. It seems that there's actually a preferable way. It says Tosfos, it wasn't explained that two refers to I will not eat and I will eat, and that our four is I will not throw and I will throw. And the reason why they have to be taught, and they're not included in the I won't eat and I will eat. You would think it includes any type of negative or positive action. The reason is because the Torah says lahara lehetiv, to do bad, to do good. Not eating is bad, eating is good. However, not throwing, and throwing it's a negative word, not to throw, and the sentence of throwing is a positive sentence. However, there's no positive and negative quality to not throwing and yes throwing, and therefore they're not openly included in the pasuk. And what's the advantage of doing it this way? It's an alternative explanation, and that's a good enough question. But Tosfos is going to say there's actually an advantage to it, says Tosfos, and this way everything would fit according to Rabbi Yishmael. Let's explain that for a moment. Rabbi Yishmael holds that a person is only chayav to bring a carbon for an oath that he took regarding the future. Only if the person says, I won't eat, I won't throw, I will throw, and lied, doesn't keep his oath, does he need to bring a carbon. However, regarding the past, he does not need to bring a carbon. So now that we explained our Mishnah to be referring to the future and the past, it comes out that this part of the Mishnah can only fit with Rabbi Kiva, who holds that a person needs to bring a carbon whether the oath is regarding the future or the past. And the problem with saying that this part of the Mishnah only fits with Rabbi Kiva is that regarding Yedias HaTumah, the Gemara Masechta Shavuos explains that by Yedias HaTumah it's the opposite. The teaching of Yedias HaTumah only fits with Rabbi Yishmael and not Rabbi Akiva. So it comes out that the part of Shavuos fits with Rabbi Akiva, the part of Yedias HaTumah fits with Rabbi Yishmael. So we needed to split the Mishnah and say it's not consistent with any individual opinion. So why don't we explain that Shavuos is referring to eating in the future and not eating, and the same thing with throwing, but all regarding the future. This way, Shavuos would fit Rabbi Shmuel, and Yedias Tumah fits with Rabbi Shmuel. So the whole Mishnah and Shavuos could fit with one opinion instead of splitting it. It says Tosfos, we don't explain it that way because we have a clear Mishnah that indicates that and tells us explicitly 2 that are 4 refers to I won't eat and I will eat for the future, and I didn't eat and I did eat regarding the past, and therefore that's how we explained it. And the reason this is in a purple arrow is because we explained what it means, and Tosfos is supporting it and saying that even though there seems an alternative way of explaining it, he's upholding his way by finishing off that we have an explicit teaching in the Mishnah that this is the way to learn it. Now we'll move on to the second part of Tosfos, a question. And Tosfos asks, why doesn't it say oaths are 2 that are 8? We just mentioned 8 cases. I will eat and I won't eat. And then for the past, I ate and I didn't eat. And then we have the throwing. I will throw and I won't throw. And then I threw and I didn't throw. Like we explained, that throwing is not openly included in eating, since there's no even though the sentence is negative and positive, I won't throw and I will throw, but the action itself has no negative and positive quality connected to it, so it's not openly included in the pasuk. Says Tosfos, he gives 2 answers. One answer is from Rashi, and that is, it seems that's why Rashi, in his explanation in Masechta Shavuos, says that when it says 2 that are 4, it's referring to the past and the future. It's teaching a case and its opposite. And Rashi is coming to explain, and he's coming to answer that it's teaching its case and its opposite is that the Mishnah in Shavuos is just taking the future cases and the past cases, and with that include all cases regarding their future and past. In other words, Rashi says, Davar v'chilufay. It's only teaching one thing and its opposite. And you could apply the same to all other things, to throwing or anything else. And therefore, when the Mishnah says 4 cases, it's including in it all cases. And then we have a second answer from Tosfos, and that is that the Tana only taught 4, not 8, because he came to teach the cases that are a chiddush. Regarding the way of interpreting it, that it refers to the future and the past, there's a chiddush, because we have an opinion that disagrees with the past, from Yishmael. So therefore, took that case, since there's a chiddush involved in it, that there's an opinion that disagrees. However, regarding the throwing, although it's a chiddush in the sense that it's not included in the pasuk, it's not a chiddush in another sense that everybody agrees to it. So the Tana didn't feel a need to teach it, since everybody's in agreement regarding that matter, that when a person takes an oath regarding throwing, although it's not clearly written in the pasuk, it's included in the teaching of the pasuk. And this, now that we asked the question regarding Shavuos, why doesn't it teach more cases? Tosfos now asks, also by Shabbos, why don't we teach more cases? Why don't we teach if somebody passes? The din is that if somebody passes an item from one Rosh Hashanah to another Rosh Hashanah along the same side of Rosh Hashanah, passes there on the same side of one another, like in a street, one porch to the next porch, and they pass over Rosh Hashanah, the din is that he's chayiv. So too, if somebody throws an item from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, or Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, not just if a person passes like written in our Mishnah. Why aren't those cases included in our Mishnah as well? And Tosfos explains that our Mishnah really should have only taught Heitzah, because that's the Av. The reason why we also taught Achnasa is because Achnasa is exactly similar to Heitzah in a sense, in 2 senses. Number one, the way of passing the item is exact, and the Rishuyas involved are exact. The Rishuyas are Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah. The question is just in which direction it's carried, and also the way it's passed is the same, is that it's handed over from one person to the other. Whereas the case of passing from one portion to another, the Rishuyas involved are different. It's one Rosh Hashanah to another Rosh Hashanah through a Rosh Hashanah. And by throwing, although the Rishuyas involved are the same, but the form of transfer is different. It's not through passing, it's through throwing. So to summarize the Tosfos first explained to us what are the cases by Shavuos, and presented an alternative way of learning it that would have seemed better, and told us why we didn't choose it. Then Tosfos went on to explain why it is that we only counted 4 cases and not 8 cases by Shavuos. And finally, Tosfos addressed why it is that we don't count additional cases by Yetzias Shabbos.